Thank you, ma'am. Now I invite the chairpersons to take over the session.
So let's start with the first presentation. Arpita Bhattacharya. Yeah, please. The topic is preparation of carbon black and nano silica from rice husk for paint formulation. So yeah. Ma'am, we will remind you about the time when it is 2 minutes left or 5 minutes left. So please, thank you. Please start.
Very good evening to all present here. Myself, Professor Arpita Bhattacharya from ICHE Institute of Nanotechnology. And today we will discuss some synthesis of carbon black and the silicon nanoparticle from the waste material, agricultural waste, that is the rice husk. So the rice husk, all of you might be knowing that this is the agricultural waste. It is abundant. The whatever the coating obtained over the rice on the paddy after milling of this rice, the whatever the leftover material is the rice husk, and it contains many important material from which we can obtain some nanomaterials. Nowadays, nanomaterial is very important to improve the different part of our life, different sector, industry sector, starting from agriculture to drug delivery, electronics to healthcare, everywhere nanomaterial applications we are using to improve the quality of the product. So this is the rice husk and the schematic. It is from that we can get the white color, the powder silica, nanosilica, and the carbon black. Now, why these two are important? Silica. First, we will discuss the silica. Silica, nanosilica, especially having very good mechanical improvement capacity. So there are different industry like rubber industry, plastic, cosmetics, coating, and concrete. Even healthcare, mesoporous silica, nanosilica can be used for the drug delivery. So the silica is very important material and it is very much present in the natural agricultural waste rice husk. Next is the carbon nanomaterial, carbon black. It is a black color pigment, and usually, whatever we see the tires. Basically, this carbon black is added to the tires to give the strength. Other than this tire industry, different cable, conveyor belt, ink, paint, even whatever the shoes, sole of our shoes, that black color due to that carbon black. Obviously size may be varied from the micron to nano, but usually micron sized are normally used, but if you put the nano it improves the strength even better. Now, what is rice husk? Already discussed. And what is the abundance of it? When we mill the paddy, after getting the rice and rice bran, that is about 78%, 22% is rice husk. That is of no use actually. Usually, you have to dump it, or sometimes it is burnt. So, if we can utilize this agricultural waste to get the nanomaterial and we can apply it for certain application, basically industrial application, that will be very much useful. So, for this work, we have decided to make it the nanosilica and the carbon black for the paint formulation. So mainly all the paint having the nano silica or normal silica as the filler material because it improves the strength of the film, and carbon black as the black pigment. Whatever the black color paint, it contains the carbon black. So if we can get this pigment, black color pigment from this type of waste material, that will be highly beneficial. That will solve the dumping problem, as well as the starting material is a low cost material. It give you cost pigment from this rice husk. Next, the composition of rice husk, it contains say 21% lignin and 32% cellulose, 21% hemicellulose. About that is 70%, 70 to 70%, and rest 20 to 20% is the inorganic material, that is mostly silica. And a small amount of iron oxide, sodium oxides are present, but mostly it is silica. Now, this is the statistics that India, China, those are the countries globally, they produce rice as well as rice husk. So around 120 million tons globally rice husk is produced, and the dumping problem is there. So if we can utilize it, so for that we have taken up that one. Usually this rice husk is burned to get rice husk ash, where all the organic matters usually burnt off, and you get only the silica. About 90% silica is present in this rice husk ash. But here in our procedure, we didn't burn it. We hydrolyze the rice husk, not the rice husk ash. Rice husk we hydrolyze, and then we get these carbon black as well as the silica. This is the main methodology, where you can see after acid hydrolysis, the rice husk, some residue will obtain and filter will obtain. From the filtrate, we will get the carbon black, and from the residue, after high temperature heating, we will get the silica, and then again silica will be dissolved in 2.5 molar sodium hydroxide solution. After boiling, when sodium silicate will be obtained, then it will be acidified to get the nanosilica. So this is the procedure. Dynamic lights, spectroscopy range. This size range is around, say average is around 300 to 400 nanometer. This study shows the standard silica peaks around 22 theta 22 degree. FTIR shows the SiO bonding in this range, and this is the SEM of the nanomaterial nanosilica what we have synthesized. That is spherical nanoparticles we have obtained. For carbon black also, we have carried out the similar characterization, SEM, XRD, and PLS. All confirm that both the silica and carbon black has been synthesized properly. Now we have used these materials in the paint applications. The first one, this is a drawdown paper, usually for paint application. This type of paper, half portion is white, half portion is black, that is called drawdown paper, on which a paint film is applied or drawn, so that it shows the hiding power. You cannot distinguish between the black and white line where the film is drawn. So first one is the emulsion paint, that is water-based paint, where the silica was used to improve the strength, as well as the other property was checked. It is highly compatible in the paint system and improve the strength of the paint film. So the silica obtained, as it is hydrophilic in nature, it can easily be introduced into the emulsion paint formulation. Whereas the second one, which is the carbon black, what we have synthesized, and the previous one left side, that is a normal carbon black from Philips carbon black. This is a standard carbon black, which is mixed with the white paint, and it is checked it's how the color depth occurs. It has been found that whatever we produce, it has to some extent around 20% less color depth capacity, but we can still improve its strength by changing the parameters, decreasing the size of the carbon black, etc. So both the nanomaterials can be, there is a potential use in the paint formulations, nano paint formulations, let's say. Now, come to the conclusion. This is a green approach where rice husk can be converted, which is agricultural waste and abundant. You can utilize it to synthesize the nanomaterials. And here, both the nanomaterial, many research group synthesize carbon black, only carbon black from these rice husk, or only nanosilica, because they burn it when the organic matter goes off. So only silica remains. So, but in this process, we got both the things, nanosilica as well as carbon black. And by acid hydrolysis method, we have already patented this work. And this is as the it is a cost-effective material, agriculture waste. So obviously, whatever the pigment produced, because nanomaterials are usually costly in the synthesis process. But as the starting material is the waste material, we are utilizing it, so we get cost-effective pigment from this nano pigment, you can say, for the pigment. So that's all. Thank you.
Now the session is open for discussion. If any.
I need one question. So you said the difference between your earlier recorded work is that people are heating it and you're doing acid hydrolysis.
Yes.
At what temperature you're doing acid hydrolysis?
Acid hydrolysis 75% sulfuric acid and 50 degrees centigrade half an hour.
So you think all organic material gets converted into carbon black by heating it with sulfuric acid?
Mostly not, because here cellulose is there, hemicellulose is there. Certain cleavage will be there, but after filtration and washing of the residue, whatever the material will come, that you have to heat for maybe 6 hours for 80 to 90 degrees centigrade. Then it will be converted to the. It will be dried totally. The whatever the filtered comes, that will be dried, and it will. After that, you have to pyrolyze it at 700 degrees centigrade. Yes.
So at 700 degree, carbon will not evaporate.
700 degree.
Because pyrolysis temperature is 5.
Yes, there are two things. 700 for carbon black preparation, 700 degrees centigrade in tubular furnace.
Which environment? Which environment?
Nitrogen environment. Inert atmosphere for 1.5 hours. It will give this carbon black.
Okay.
Whereas for silica, it will be in muffle furnace, 700 degree for 3 hours.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Is there anything to? Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for a nice presentation. Thank you. The next talk is from Rosani. Huh? Which one? Sir? No, it's the Sukesh Chand Sharma is available. Sakshi Rautela is for. Sukesh Chandra Sharma is not a. Sarkar, the third talk is. Yeah, please. So the title is Computational Studies and Anti-Cancer. Sukesh Chandra, no, it's a. Who? Sir.
Hello.
Sorry, the
और स्लाइड मूव करने का वही है ना? ओके. ये ओके सिंपल है. अच्छा ये आगे यहीं से ना? ओके आगे. ओके. Namaskar everybody. So thanks Deshbandhu College for giving me the opportunity. So as the name, membrane lipid composition of yeast, Saccharomyces anomalous, major key factors in the response to peripheral stress. So as we know that now biofuels and fossil fuels are very two important components. So fossil fuels are making some problem, global warming, climate change, environmental degradation, and government and international agencies, they have a 2050 report that zero emission. And for that, alternate is biofuel productions. So first generation bioethanol, which is mainly from crops, residue, especially starch and other corn or other starches. So 2G is from lignocellulosic hydrolysates. So this is the most common use, because we know that paddy, many other raw material, even leaves, they are also very important source for this production. So what we do, so this is the general global ethanol production. So we know that the United States is top, India is also going up. So we have a main target. So what is the next reason? So this is the many processes involved for converting lignocellulosic waste into ethanol. So as we know, so this is the main substrate for bioethanol production. And when we use substrate, because lignocellulosic hydrolyzed, they are converted into usable sugars. But the side products, by using acidic hydrolysis or alkaline hydrolysis, we get raw material, what we call as a side products, furan, weak acid, especially acetic acid, phenols, and these are the, when we give pre-treatment, so they are producing, but sugars are also there. So these inhibitors, they are main vertical as a inhibitor, vertical as a concerned factor for ethanol production. So this is a strain which we have isolated, because this is not a very good ethanol producing, but this can use, because we know pentose and hexose. We can we can use this as a sugar, both for this strain, unlike Saccharomyces cerevisiae. And also the important feature of this strain is that this can tolerate more uh, furfural, hydroxymethyl furfural, and acetic acid. So this is the general methodology, how we take very standard. Okay. So as we know, for ethanol and for any extracellular inhibitor, plasma membrane is the first site which is the target for that. So that is target, dual target, ethanol as well as our main target is how they are tolerant to various inhibitors we have tried for fuel. So this is the technology, lipids, this method, phospholipid are a key component, sterols and other individual phospholipid, they also play very important role. Fatty acids, they are also very important component which affect, we will see the fluidity and other thing. So these are the first which we analyzed, that this is the one yeast, what you call as a, Saccharomyces cerevisiae. So yes, this Zygomyrus, and this is 924 is Saccharomyces cerevisiae. This is another strain, and this is Vicharomyces which we isolated. So when we added 10 millimole of refural, we found that Saccharomyces cerevisiae, it doesn't grow. So it means Zygo and Vicharomyces both are there. So then we analyze fatty acids. We know fatty acid play very important fluidity and other characteristic. So we found that not only for fuel tolerance, but they also produce very unique fatty acids, which are not present in Saccharomyces cerevisiae. So this could be the main reason. So these are the fatty acids which are very common. So this is very unique fatty acid which is present in this and not in other yeast and fungi. So this is common. This is also common. This is a very important fatty acid and has a very good quantity. It means this is a very special particular as a production under this condition, and this may be the reason that this oleic, what you call as a linoleic acid plays very important role in furfural tolerance. So this is also very important fatty acid. So these can also be used for as essential fatty acid. Unlike Saccharomyces cerevisiae, we need special fatty acid from plants and other sources. So this is also very unique. So it means this yeast as well as furfurals, this unsaturation plays very important role. So is the fatty acyl chain length. So this is the fluidity measurement in the control. So fluidity is less. So both in the polar region as well as in the unpolar region. So it means fluidity it increases. So it means the fatty acid increase. This unsaturation, this may be what you call as a reason for tolerance to for fuel as well as tolerance to other factors. Because we have not given in this, we have tested for acetic acid also, which is another. So that has indeed parallel correlation with the such acetic acid as well as for fuel. So this is the, because sterols and phospholipids, they are the very important. So they give indication about the fluidity as well as this component. So they have particularly increased sterol to phospholipid ratio. So they have a molar ratio has increased. It means we have sterols also play very important role in controlling. As we know, sterols are membrane fluidity regulators. That is, they moderate. If unsaturation is increasing the fluidity, sterol increase, try to balance that increased fluidity. So this is our hypothesis and relates with the other. So same way, glycolipid and phospholipid. So usually glycolipids are very ignored molecules, but we've seen that glycolipids are also very important for fluidity as well as other factors. So we know, so these glycolipids are very less. So for fuel case, glycolipid, they have increased a lot. So it means sterol glycolipids, they play very important role in particularly as a tolerance to these two chemicals. So it means this Vicharomyces is seems to be a very emerging and very useful model for particularly as a transformation of the various yeast for including the fatty acid unsaturation, which we have to add for during ethanol fermentation. So this amount of phospholipid decreased while glycolipids, as I told from the ratio. So it means glycolipids are also, of course, we plan to analyze the glycolipids. And then increase in the free sterol phospholipid molar ratio and glycolipid phospholipid ratio, they decrease the membrane fluidity, because this is a particular countering strategy by the yeast cells in order to increase unsaturation by the fatty acids. So among the individual phospholipids, phosphatidylethanolamine ethanol mean. So this phosphatidylethanolamine ethanol mean is a very special lipid, which unlike other lipids, which make lamellar structures, they are capable of making non-lamellar structures, and those non-lamellar structures are very important for cells. And then there is an increase in the phosphatidylserine, which shows an opposite trend. Generally, phosphatidylserine doesn't play much important role, but here phosphatidylserine also plays, because this has also a special role. It gives a negative charge to the cell. So then no change was observed in the amount of phosphatidylinositol. So unlike, it means the signaling molecule, that phosphorinositol, which get phosphorylated and dephosphorylated, they give some signal to the cell. It means phosphatidylinositols, they are not playing much role. So these common lipid ethanolamine and choline, so these are the key lipids of the yeast or eukaryotic cell, especially with the membrane architecture. So this is profound effect on the palmitic acid, as we discussed, saw from the table. Palmitoleic acid, linoleic acid respond to fuel, and then unsaturated ratio, that same increase. Unsaturation is increased, and we can also use this lipid growing onto the lignocellulose hydrolysates for production of the unsaturated, which can be supplemented to the normal our dietary fats. So this can act as a essential fatty acid supplementation into this. And then some odd chain fatty acid. Odd chain fatty acids are rarely seen, but they also produce relatively quite good amount. Not in we have confirmed by GCMS and all those, and we are satisfied with the fatty acid and all those composition. So conclusion, implication of glycolipids play very important role, and membrane fluidity change. Glycolipids can be useful role, and this was supported by gun from DST FIST and carrying out analysis. Any question, please?
Yeah, if is there any question, we will quickly take them. Otherwise, we will congratulate the speaker. Thank you, sir. Is there anyone? Thank you. Thank you. I think the next talk is from Sarkar. Please.
Hello. Hello. So my work is on computational studies and anti-cancer activities of metal and metal oxide nanoparticles synthesized from plant combination of curcumin, cyanum and carum carvi. So what we did is we have taken several species of plant species. We have combined several species together. But for this particular talk, I have taken the combination of plant combination of two species, Huminin cyanum, which is generally called jeera, and the other one is carum carva, which is called shahjeera. Both are the categories of the same, but both have some different characteristic properties. So basically, we have taken, the purpose was that the plant, we know that it has got a lot of activities, antibacterial, anti-cancerous. We want to harness that potential. So what we did is we first collect the supernatant, test the presence of various secondary metabolites. So we test the presence of flavonoids, saponins, alkaloids, tannins, and all this by different. So after that, we make this screen synthesis of nanoparticles. Different nanoparticles we make: silver, copper oxide, and zinc oxide. For silver, we taken silver nitrate. For copper oxide, we taken copper acetate, and for zinc oxide, we taken zinc sulfate. So first we first we did the phytochemical analysis, and the phytochemical analysis suggests that there are presence of various secondary metabolites, and in some plants there are absence. So we did all these tests and we got the results. What are based on the color reactions, the qualitative test for all this. So cardiac test, steroids test, and we have performed all these tests. After that, once we know that these two plants which have combined, it has got different phytochemicals, different groups, then we proceed for the synthesis of that nanoparticles from those two species combinedly. We have extracted we have taken the supernatant, then we have synthesized the nanoparticles. We see a change. Initially the color was this one, then once we add the silver nitrate, then the color changes. So there reduction occurs. Reduction of silver ions takes place because of the chemicals, phytochemicals present in this extract. Similarly, for zinc oxide also, we see when we add this precursor molecule, we see a change in color. And for copper oxide also, we found the change in the color. It is because of the presence of this compound which is formed, nanoparticle. We have also characterized using several. We have characterized using UV silver nanoparticles. We get the peak. Then we have also characterized this copper oxide nanoparticles. We get a peak. Then also we have characterized copper oxide pellets, because copper oxide initially it's supernatant, the lighter one. It also has a tendency to form heavier molecules. So we also we've taken the pellets and dissolved it, and finally also characterized it using silver nanoparticles. Then we also characterized zinc oxide. We also did the SEM study, some particles, and also we also studied the hydrodynamic parameters study. Also we did fluorescence emission spectra and XPS spectrum. And after that, once we have that nanoparticle form, we want to know whether some of the phytochemicals present has computational activities, because we want to also show it anti-cancerous. For that, we should know the behavior of this pattern in the receptor molecule. So we have taken 3 receptors: somatostatin receptor, gonadotropin receptor, and estrogen receptor for molecular docking studies. Okay, so we got this result with estrogen receptors. We take ICHE-2023 and PatchDoc, but for this I have only shown ICHE-2023 studies. We have separate studies for PatchDoc also and other softwares. So we see the molecules which are present in these plant extract, and we see the these docking result visualized using different visualizing softwares. And after that, these are all with estrogen receptors. These are with estrogen receptors, the different molecules. And we have also taken the gonadotropin releasing hormones with the same phytochemicals present in these extract. Okay, we have taken all this, and you see this, the molecular docking shows that the molecules bind with particular phytochemicals near about it. So you see that it is docked with the amino acids, and you see the bonding pattern in this. So gonadotropin releasing hormones receptor also we did with all these phytochemicals. Somatostatin receptors also we takes all these phytochemical rosmarinic and all these with docked, and we see these visualizing parameters. All this the same with somatostatin receptors as well. Alimol, carbizol, cyclic, everything. So we did all parameters, all molecules with 3 different receptors. So what we conclude from this particular talk is that the molecular docking studies against these 3 receptors shows that there is some kind of binding inhibition pattern with these 3 receptors. So we took over, because of this shortage of time, we could not present the anti-cancer activity. Some of the results have shown a good anti-cancer activities as well. So probably if we get the time, then I could have shown that anti-cancer activities as well.
Thank you. Thank you. Is there any question to ask?
There are for molecular docking, IGEM doc is there, patch doc is there, and these are online software, so you can use it. And there are also offline softwares. So I have used online softwares for using this. Which based on? Search engine, you can search in Google. That you can type it, software. Acha, the result you are showing, it will show in the form of binding energy. I have shown only the binding affinity of these molecules with that, but the result will come in the form of binding energy. The more the negative binding energy means there is a strong binding between the molecule and the receptors.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Dr. Sarkar, I did not understand the concept that whatever molecules you're doing molecular docking, all these are known compounds to the best of my knowledge, right? And they must have been evaluated for anti-cancer activity to the best of my understanding.
So why I did the phytochemical study, because we have synthesized the nanoparticles. Then there are various molecules which are present. When we actually go for the GCMS, the molecules which I've got, I have not shown the GCMS results. It is the general molecules which is present, which is for the known. But when you did the GCMS study, the molecules which I found is different. Different means that there might be some of the other new molecules also present, because I have taken water as a solvent, and for that, and also I have used ethanol as a solvent. So the molecules is present in GCMS study is entirely new. So for that, I did the anti-cancer activity.
No, that's fine. But the point is, unless you recognize that, see, when you do phytochemical studies, it's very obvious that unless you recognize something which is new, that might be important for the activity evaluation or activity studies, to my understanding, this looks to be a little different, because you are doing the molecular docking with known compounds.
Known compounds I did.
Right.
Because I have shown it for known compounds against some of the receptors which had not been worked before.
Okay, understood.
So basically the receptor patterns, the signaling patterns are different. So for cancer, maybe there are, the literature study shows that the molecules which I have taken, they are for different receptors, but I have taken some other receptors. So maybe the signaling aspect might vary, which can lead to cancer.
So whatever you were saying, you have preliminary data for anti-cancer activities.
Anti-cancer
for the nanoparticles that you have synthesized?
Yes. For the
so the point is, how do we sure that which compound is responsible for the anti-cancer activity?
Yes,
that's my question.
That is a very good question. That's why I did that GCMS analysis.
Right. So that
GCMS
nanoparticle will have a mixture of compounds.
Yes. So for that, when you do the anti-cancer activity, out of those long species of chemicals, some species will show the effect. Okay. So in my future, I will also separate some of the compounds. And then
Thank you. Yeah. Guys, I have a small request to everybody. You see, we all are here for learning. See, this is not my area of research, but I'm trying to listen this. Some of you are trying to present. I think we should not talk in between, and we should try to learn from them. I think conferences are meant for that. right? Not just for socializing. Please don't mind my interference, but I think we all are here to learn. So please be quiet and let's try to learn from them. Thank you. Next person.
Next person is Sakshi Rautela.
Good evening, everyone. Myself Sakshi Rautela, and today I'm going to present this review paper with the title Nanotechnology-Based Reclamation of Contaminated Soil and Wastewater. So one of the most concerning topics nowadays is soil and water contamination. And today we have summarized some of the points for soil and water contamination. For soil contamination, modernization in the industries, presence of heavy metals, and use of chemical and pesticides that we do in the fields are some of the reasons why soil is contaminated and its quality is affected. Now, moving on to the reasons for water contamination, the direct discharge of effluents from the industries to the wastewater affects the quality of the water, as well as domestic wastewater from our own houses, from rural and urban area is affecting the water quality. In addition to that, sewage leakage that leads to oxygen depletion contaminates the water and leads to water pollution. The objective of our study is to assess the utility and the utilization of nanotechnology in restoring contaminated soil and wastewater. So these are some of the nanoparticles that we have included in our study, that are nano-zero valent iron, carbon nanotubes, graphene oxide, magnetic nanoparticles, and silica nanoparticles. Starting with the first nanoparticle, that is nano-zero valent iron. Starting with its properties, as the name suggests, it is a nanoscale. The size is about 10 to 100 nanometer. It has large specific surface area, as well as the main property of nano-zero valent iron is its highly reducing nature. But while working with nano-zero valent iron, the main problem arises is aggregation. That's why we use modified forms like carboxymethyl cellulose supported nano-zero valent iron or bimetallic modified nano-zero valent iron. Now, its environmental application includes its use in the in situ remediation of chromium-6 contaminated soil. It also helps in the decontamination of heterogeneous sites without compromising with the soil integrity, and that is the reason why we can use other processes like bioremediation with nano-zero valent iron. Moving on to the next nanoparticle, that are carbon nanotubes or CNTs. CNTs are known for their distinctive physicochemical properties. They have high adsorption capacity, they have high porosity, their structural composition includes a tubular structure made up of graphitic sheets, and they are mainly of two primary forms, that are single-walled CNTs and multi-walled CNTs. Now, coming to their environmental applications, CNTs, they work as adsorbents. They help to absorb lead and cadmium, and they also work as sensors. They sense mercury in the industrial wastewater. They work as great oil spill sponges. They help to remove the oil spills from the seawater, and this thing has already been proven from the already existing data. Moving on to the next nanoparticle, that is graphene oxide. Its structure it is composed of two-dimensional carbon lattice with exceptional strength, and its derivative, graphene oxide, is made by introducing an oxygen-containing group into graphene. Moving on to its uses in the wastewater treatment and the soil treatment, graphene oxide, they are highly hydrophilic in nature. They have a high surface area. They have active sites, as well as they help to remove toxic materials as well. And then they help in the soil treatment as well as pH degradation as well. The graphene oxide, they absorb heavy metals, and they excel at absorbing polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons. In addition to that, they promote the growth of the bacteria that are going to degrade the pH. Then the next nanoparticle we will be discussing is magnetic nanoparticles. They are target specific in nature. They lead to high pollutant removal, and the main reason why we are using magnetic nanoparticles is their reusability, their easy separation, and their low operational cost. Now, the environmental application, there are a lot of environmental application like iron magnetic nanoparticles when they're combined with hydrogen peroxide or polyethylamine coated MNPs or aluminum doped MNPs. All of these in some sort of manner, they are helping to remove the water contaminants from wastewater. Then let's discuss the last nanoparticle, that is silica nanoparticles. Their properties include their high surface area, their selectivity for the heavy metals, and they are stable in nature, as well as they are helpful in the wastewater treatment and soil treatment. SINPs, they absorb heavy metals like lead and copper, as well as they help to remove the anionic dyes from the wastewater. Then moving on to the soil treatment, silica nanoparticles, they are incorporated into agriculture activities, like they are help to deliver the fertilizers and chemicals in small quantity, as well as they help to build up the resilience in plant defense mechanism. Now we will be discussing some disadvantages. First of the disadvantages, microclusters. Nanoparticles can form microclusters, which can have effect on our environment as well as human health. And we have very less information over their effect. How are they affecting our environment? And they can be toxic in nature. And this has been reported that MNPs, they lead to the creation of reactive species, as well as they lead to a protein denaturation. It has been reported that nanoparticles can lead to phytotoxicity, and they can hinder the seed germination or the seed growth. Now, talking about nanotechnology, it is slightly on the expensive side, and when we are handling nanoparticles like nano zero valent iron, then we have to face issues like aggregation or separation. So it becomes a bit of hassle to work with them. Now, what next? What should be done in the field of nanotechnology? What should we do more is the question. And firstly, environmental impact. Environmental impact, we need to know how nanoparticles are interacting with the environment, like their risk. We need to understand the risk, we need to mitigate those risks, and then we have to design nanoparticles in a way that their effects are less in the environment without altering their original properties, because their original properties are the reason why we have chosen them. Legislation, clear legislation is, we need clear legislation. MNPs, we need to study the life cycle of MNPs, how they're affecting the different ecosystems. We need to know the role of SINPs. We need to study the role of SINPs, how SINPs are building up the resilience in plant mechanism, in the stressful conditions, and industrial impact. We need to acknowledge the existence of nanoparticles in industrial manufacturing, like to tackle issues like their production, their categorization, analyzation, and their impact on environment. These are some of the references that we have used, and thank you very much.
Thank you. Your presentation skill is good.
Yes,
But
sir.
you said in the beginning,
Yes, sir.
iron nanoparticles 10 to 100 nanometer get agglomerated.
Yes, sir.
Why?
So because nanoparticles, like their size is from, as the name suggests, nano, something that is
Correct me. What I ask, you understand? Why they get agglomerated?
they get means why the aggregation is taking place.
Are you master student?
I'm a batch. I have done the
Bachelor is-
graduation, and this is a review paper, so I have.
I understand. Okay.
Okay.
You learn.
Okay, sir. I
Okay.
will. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Yes, sir. Sir, chemical method and other, what did you say? Green synthesis. So
One
I
is
would,
green method, where
Hmm.
the pollution-free environment, because it's linked with environment, right?
Hmm.
This conference. So what method you would prefer?
So I think I would go for the green synthesis, because as much as I have
But
learned
here
that
it's chemistry.
physical chemistry or like physical methods or chemical methods are a bit on the expensive side. And as I'm a botany student, I would
You're a
like to
botanist.
be like more incorporated with plants and how like naturally
Okay.
something is being synthesized.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Next presenter is Aditi Pandey. Yeah.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Aditi Pandey. I am a research scholar in Department of Chemistry, Banasthali Vidyapeeth, Rajasthan. Today, I will be presenting here my work on microcalorimetric and spectroscopic studies of iron oxide nanoparticle-based drug delivery system, advanced paradigm in cancer treatment regimen. So, Cancer is characterized by uncontrolled growth of body cells, and then cells start to grow out of control and they continue to grow and form new and abnormal cells. Although continuous research and studies are being made to fight against this disease, but still cancer has maintained its status as one of the major cause of death worldwide. Some of the limitations of the current cancer treatment methods are non-specific nature or the minimal specificity of the anti-cancer drugs. At times, body also start developing resistance towards the anti-cancer drugs and the immune escape. Therefore, the quest for the specificity and increasing the solubility and bioavailability of the drugs led to the development of drug delivery system. Especially among different nanoparticle-based drug delivery system, we have used iron oxide nanoparticle-based drug delivery system due to its exceptional physiochemical properties like biocompatibility, magnetic properties, stability, thermal properties, imaging properties, enhanced permeability and retention effect, which has completely changed the perception of drug delivery by opening new doors in cancer treatment methods. Next, so in this study, we have synthesized and characterized different amino acid coated iron oxide nanoparticles along with bare iron oxide nanoparticles for drug delivery applications. Next, for the quantitative investigation of the thermodynamic parameters of interactions, we have performed nanobio interaction studies. Next, for the determination of the therapeutic efficiency of the synthesized nanoformulations, we have also performed drug loading experiments. And at last, we have derived QSAR, quantitative structure activity relationship, for AI-based future target-oriented designing of efficient drug delivery systems. So as I said, we are using different amino acids as a coating material. So we have used different amino acids based on their structural category to evaluate the effect of structure of coating material on the therapeutic efficiency of the synthesized formulations. Like we have chosen glycine and alanine, which are non-polar group of amino acids, aspartic acid, serine and threonine, these are polar group of amino acid, and tryptophan, it is a neutral molecule. For the synthesis of iron oxide nanoparticles, we have used co-precipitation method of synthesis, and attempts have been made to synthesize all the formulation by a similar method so as to determine the effect of coating material on the efficiency of drug delivery system, as different synthesis method could yield nanoparticles with different physical properties. Next, for the confirmation of successful synthesis of the nanoformulations, we have done spectroscopic and surface characterization. For examination of the physical and structural properties, we have done FTIR spectroscopy, and from the spectra, as we can see, the peak observed at around 580 centimeter inverse confirms or suggests the successful synthesis of iron oxide nanoparticles. And if we compare the spectra of pure amino acid with that of amino acid coated nanoformulations, it was observed that amino acid coated formulations consist of all the characteristic peaks of pure amino acid with a slight shift in their position. This suggests that amino acids have been linked to the surface of iron oxide nanoparticles. Further, for the examination of the crystal structure of the nanoformulation, we have performed XRD analysis, and as we can see in the spectra, it contains 6 diffraction peaks which match well with the reported data values, and this further confirms the crystal structure of the nanoformulations. And we can see the XRD spectra of amino acid coated nanoformulations. It was observed that there is minimal impact of coating material on the crystal structure of nanoformulations. Next, for the analysis of the effect of coating material on the surface properties, we have performed DLS, BET and SEM analysis, and we can see that from the DLS analysis, it was observed that the hydrodynamic diameter of the amino acid coated formulations was observed to be higher than that of bare iron oxide nanoparticles. This further suggests that amino acids have been linked to the surface of nanoparticles, and also the increased surface area obtained from BET analysis suggests that it is also advantageous indicator as increased amount of therapeutic advantageous indicator as for drug delivery system, because increased amount of therapeutic moiety can be loaded to the surface of iron oxide nanoparticle and can be delivered to the targeted site. Next, for the determination of the colloidal stability, we have performed zeta potential measurement studies, and the results suggest that amino acid coated nanoformulation was observed to show zeta potential value around 30 millivolt, and that for bare iron oxide nanoparticles it was around 18. This suggests that the amino acid coated formulations are colloidally more stable, and this was further confirmed by SAM analysis as they were more clear images were obtained and they were well dispersed and colloidal. Next, for colloidally dispersed. Next, for the nanobio interaction studies, we have performed spectroscopic and calorimetric techniques we have used. We have performed nanobio interaction studies with the two biological macromolecules, namely human serum albumin and DNA. And for this, we have used ITC, isothermal titration calorimetry, and spectroscopic technique. Isothermal titration calorimetry, it is a microcalorimetric technique that measures the amount of heat released or absorbed during the reaction. So we can determine the parameters such as binding constant value, enthalpy change, entropy change, and Gibbs free energy change. And by fluorescence spectroscopy, this is the emission experiment method, and by the use of quenching experiments like these HSA, it is intrinsically fluorescent. And if we perform, if we study the quenching mechanism by using the ligand or the synthesized nanoformulation as a quencher molecule, then we can again calculate the binding constant value, and fluorescence spectroscopy was used as a complementary technique for ITC results. So this is the isothermal titration calorimetric profile for the interaction of bare iron oxide nanoparticles with HSA, and this is the ITC profile for the interaction of bare iron oxide nanoparticles with DNA. And the result obtained suggests that there is strong binding between the ligand and the macromolecule, and the exothermic enthalpic value suggests that there is presence of hydrophilic or electrostatic interactions. The positive entropy change value suggests that the binding interactions that are taking place are entropically supported, and the negative Gibbs free energy value suggests that the reaction is spontaneous in nature. Next, we have performed ITC study with all the 6 formulations, that is glycine coated iron oxide nanoparticles, alanine. This is for serine, threonine, glycine, alanine, aspartic acid, and this is for tryptophan coated iron oxide nanoparticles with HSA macromolecules. Similarly, we have performed fluorescence quenching experiments with glycine coated iron oxide nanoparticles. This is for serine, threonine, glycine, alanine, aspartic acid, and this is for tryptophan coated iron oxide. Similarly, these are the ITC profile for the interaction of different nanoformulations with DNA macromolecule, and these are the fluorescence quenching profiles. So from the obtained from these experiments, we concluded that all the amino acid coated nanoformulations were observed to have higher binding constant value in comparison to bare iron oxide nanoparticles. Also, we see that serine and threonine, serine was observed to show slightly higher binding constant value in comparison to threonine. So here we can see the inclusion of only one extra CS3 group in threonine has reduced the binding constant value of threonine, and similar effect of inclusion of one extra CS3 group was observed in glycine and alanine, and tryptophan, which has the bulkiest group, this was observed to show least binding constant value, which was almost equal to bare iron oxide nanoparticles. Yes, sorry sir, but I am concluding now. And next, we have also performed drug loading experiments with 3 anti-cancer drugs like 5-fluorouracil, hydroxyurea, and cyclophosphamide, and the similar results were observed. We can see the polar group of amino acids were shown to have higher drug loading efficiency in comparison to non-polar group of amino acids, and also although the non-polar groups were shown, but see, non-polar group of amino acids were also shown to have higher drug loading efficiency in comparison to bare. So this suggests that the coating not only increases their colloidal stability, their interaction with the biological molecules, but also their drug loading efficiency. So we have conclude. I would like to conclude my presentation by saying that coating material, as I said, increases the colloidal stability, their therapeutic efficiency by increasing the drug loading efficiency, and also their interactions with the biological macromolecules. And the importance of structure, like I said, polar group of amino acids were observed to have higher binding constant value in comparison to non-polar, and we have derived QSAR, quantitative structure. Based on the structure, we have quantified the values. So these results, we expect that these results are contribute significantly to the AI-based designing of efficient drug delivery systems. I thank you.
Thank you.
So much.
Thank you. Is there anyone to ask? Please.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Sir, by using FTI. Yes, sir. I have performed by like we have used FTIR spectroscopy. We can see I can show you the spectra of bare iron oxide nano. See, there were the characteristic peaks of amino acids were also observed in the spectra of amino acid coated nanoformulation, but with a slight shift in their position, which through the carboxylate group also there was a bidentate linkage which was observed. The peaks observed at around 1700 was observed to be slightly shifted, which was present in the amino acid coated formulation, but it was observed to be slightly shifted in the yes, sir. Yes, sir. See, we can see in bare iron oxide nanoparticles, there is only one peak, 580 nanometer, this, and there was no other peak. But in case of amino acid coated formulation, this peak was also observed, and all the other peaks of pure amino acids were also observed in the amino acid coated nanoformulation.
Why can't we conclude from there that it's a mixture of the compound is not coated? Amino acid is a part, but it's partially coated, and amino acid doesn't give it to us. How do we, understand that amino
Yes, sir.
acid is coated?
Yes, sir.
That's why there's a change in the IR.
Yes, sir.
I'm saying it might be partially coated.
Partially linked. Yes, sir.
It might have some impurity of amino acid. How do we exclude that possibility?
No, sir. See, if we are synthesizing bare iron oxide nanoparticle, we are not using anything, just iron plus 3 and plus 2 salt, and I am using co-precipitating agent. See, I am using ammonia solution as co-precipitant, and there is no amino acid. So for the coating, we are using just one step we are adding, and we are adding amino acid. So in the bare iron oxide nanoparticle, there is no chance of
Okay, go back to the XRD.
XRD.
Which one is one peak?
Sir, I have not got.
That's
into
what I'm
details of
saying.
XRD.
It's
Yes, sir.
just a suggestion. Nobody believes it. What is JCPDS number?
Yes, sir. I have compared my peak with a JCPDS file number.
Why did you not index the peaks?
Like, okay.
You have not indexed.
Yes, sir.
What is JCPDS number? What is the standard data to compare?
I have compared. See, I have the peak observed at around 30 nanometer.
Madam,
30.
you are not understanding what I'm saying.
Yes, sir.
XRD data only to believe when it is indexed and JCPDS number is given.
Okay, sir.
Please.
Okay, sir.
It's
I
just
will-
a suggestion.
Okay, sir. I will
Thank
keep
you.
that one.
Thank you.
so much. Thank you.
Next one is Pradeep. Yeah, please. Pranamaya Pradeep. Yeah.
PPT है. Good evening, everyone. I'm going to be reviewing the current and prospective applications of nanotheranostics in drug metabolism surveillance, tissue repair, and precision medicine. What is nanotheranostics? If the last bit of that word sounds familiar to you, like me, you might be thinking of Elizabeth Holmes's Theranos, which has the same meaning in this context as well. Nano refers to small, and Theranos is a combination of the words diagnosis and therapy.
It is at a culmination of diagnostic therapeutics, and it utilizes nanotechnological methods to yield results. Some of the nanoparticles used in technology like this include nanochannels that, when specialized, have the ability to selectively transport drugs and drug metabolites. Why is this significant in pharmacology? We'll have to go back in time a bit to the late 1950s in Germany, where a new drug had been synthesized. It was used to treat morning sickness in pregnant women and became popularly used. It sounds pretty great, but many of you might have realized that I'm talking about the drug thalidomide, which was found to be a teratogen. It was sold as a racemic salt of both the R and the S enantiomers, and it was found very late that the S enantiomer acts as a teratogen, whereas the R enantiomer is not found to have teratogenic effects, but instead reduces nausea. So the children born to everyone who consumed this drug were found severely deformed because it was found in later studies that the S enantiomer had anti-angiogenic effects, which means that it did not allow for vasculature development of the limbs. In a similar study performed by Lee et al., they compared the enantiomers, the R and the S enantiomers of a drug called naproxen, which is used to treat arthritic pain. They used gold nanoparticles that had been capped with N-acetyl L-cysteine to do the study, and this was based on on chiral discrimination, which is based on the chirality of an organic compound, whereas when in the presence of chiral compounds, there is diastereoselective aggregation which occurs, and this happens only for one particular enantiomer of the compound and not the other. The two enantiomers in this case did not happen to have as severe effects as in the case of thalidomide, and they only differ in their pharmacological activity. The S enantiomer is found to have about 28 times more pharmacological activity and bioavailability than the R enantiomer. So the study concluded by aggregating the nanoparticles that had been bound to gold, and they only aggregated in the case of the presence of the S-NPX and not the case of the R-NPX, which confirmed by dynamic light scattering that the S enantiomer has more affinity towards the nanoparticles and cyclooxygenase enzyme, which leads to a downstream cascade of inflammation than the R counterpart. In this study, we discuss how the bio blueprint or the biomimetic scaffolds have a significant impact in tissue regeneration. And Yu et al., who performed this study, used hydroxyapatite crystals and 3D printing to create a porous scaffold. They tested it with proteoblast cells and found that it had strong mechanical properties. They saw a significant increase in the calcium in the scaffold, indicating that it helped with bone regrowth. Another study that was conducted by Nadi et al. Generated an entirely new scaffold with special nanoparticles and 3D printing. In the diagram at the top, the dark red streaks symbolize, this was viewed under bright field microscopy, and the dark streaks symbolize that there has been a higher HA accumulation, which is indicative of bone regeneration. A life scaffold is a biocompatible and biodegradable framework that is used to support and guide the growth of new tissue or cells within a body. It provides a temporary physical framework which degenerates in the future and leaves behind a brand new regenerated tissue. Creating such models of 3D neural networks has been very significant because we have been using them to study astrocytes, which are glial cells in the neural network. In 2D cultures of these cells, neurons and astrocytes are separated into layers wherein minimal interaction takes place. However, to study them in a more real-life application, they have been studied in a 3D culture as well, where they interact together to stimulate brain function. Nanoparticles also have applications in personalized medicine. Why personalized medicine? Here's an oversimplified example. I'm 5'3" on a good day, and I know people who are over 6 feet tall. And it just wouldn't make sense for the same drug to be administered, the same dose of a pharmaceutical drug to be administered to all of us. In the same way, since our genetic and molecular basis varies on a chemical level, understanding and decoding our genetics or our genomes can help us use specialized and targeted methods to treat maladies. Astrocytes are important glial cells within the blood-brain barrier, and the BBB is made up of endothelial cells, which encompass structures like tight junctions, which don't allow for most chemicals to traverse through the blood-brain barrier unless they are extremely lipid-soluble. In this example, the structural differences between morphine and heroin change the way that they can interact and bypass the blood-brain barrier. Morphine contains two hydroxyl groups, whereas in the same position, the heroin molecule contains acetyl groups, which makes it more lipid soluble as compared to morphine. So heroin can traverse the blood-brain barrier, whereas morphine cannot. Once it enters the brain, it is anhydrated to morphine. And since morphine is a polar compound, it gets effectively trapped in the brain, and it leads to increased effectiveness of heroin as an analgesic as compared to morphine, since it gets trapped in the brain and has longer lasting effects. Other drugs as well, which have lipid solubility, can enter the brain and have rapid effects on the CNS. In order to design appropriate nano carriers, we need to choose the target that they are meant for. Two very specifically used methods are receptor mediated endocytosis and absorptive mediated endocytosis. Nair et al. Also studied the use of monocytes as potential carriers for drug loaded nanoparticles for delivery to the brain. Monocytes, since they're a part of the innate immune system, have a greater capacity to traverse the blood brain barrier than a foreign substance, for example. And opioids like cocaine also were known to decrease or relax the tight junctions in the blood-brain barrier, improving drug permeability. In the case of brain tumors, albumin conjugated nanoparticles have been used. Choosing the most effective nanocarriers is also extremely significant in determining what types of diseases can be treated. In the case of HIV, which is in the case of AIDS, sorry, which is caused by HIV, the treatment offered is ARV or antiretroviral therapies, which cannot traverse the brain. Therefore, surfactants like polysorbate 20 and PEG PDCA have been used to improve drug delivery to the brain and to the spleen, since they have a higher rate of permeability. In the second example, they are also used for treating prion diseases, since they can also surpass the spleen. Polymeric nanoparticles have shown promise in treating Alzheimer's, and this is indicated in this mouse model as well as brain tumors. So two models have been discussed here. That is a xenograft model and the GEM model, or the genetically engineered mouse model. While keeping all of the prospects of nanotherapeutics in mind, ethical concerns exist and need to be addressed. One of the most major ethical concerns is privacy, safety, and informed access. Privacy of genetic data and long-term effects of nanoparticle treatments are extremely important considerations, because in case a patient has had their genome decoded and does not want to share it, it does not make sense to disclose that information, even if it is from a public health perspective. And environmental impact, including nanoparticle waste and pollution, should be minimized or ethically managed. You know how they say tomorrow never comes? Well, every moment of the future becomes a moment of now as each moment passes. And the future of nanotheranostics looks very promising, since they have lots of applications in drug delivery and surveillance of drugs once they have entered the human system. So keeping ethical considerations in mind is the need of the hour as we move towards the now of all of the tomorrows to come today. These were my sources. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Is there anything to ask? Thank you. Thank you. The next speaker is Priyaj. Huh? Yeah, please.
Good evening, everyone present here. Myself, Priya Jha. I'm a research scholar at Guru Gobind Singh Indraprasth University. So, the topic of my presentation is magnetic nanoparticle wrapped in bioorganic metal organic framework for a combination treatment using chemotherapy and magnetic hyperthermia. Actually, cancer, I won't take much of your time because most of the people before me has already explained cancer diagnostics and all. Yeah, exactly. So cancer is nothing but genetic mutations and all. There are different types of cancer. There are 100 types of different cancer based on the locations, stages and all. And treatments basically involve surgery, chemotherapy, radiation therapy. These are used alone, or they can be used in combination as well. The next, it basically depends. Previously, it was completely dependent on this EPR effect, enhanced permeability and retention effect. It was first reported by Matsumura and Maeda in 1986. They used PG glycate coated nanoparticles for this. Generally, in normal tissues, we have simple vasculature, like there is no leaky structures here. Sorry. अरे यार. Okay. So in here there are no leaky vasculature. These are normal cells. But in malignant tissues, like this cancer tissues, because they need more nutrients, more oxygen, and all, so they develop the immature cells. They are not mature. The immature cells develop these more number of these vasculatures. Because of that, there are leaky structures present in this endothelial layer, and from there they get nutrients and everything. This, the space that is there in between these cells is used. When the cells passes through this, they directly pass through the passage. But in case of cancer cells, they can enter these spaces and can stay in the cancerous cells for longer. This mechanism was used, but there was also a drawback that if the nanoparticles is not that small, if it's more smaller than 50 nanometers, it will directly pass from here. It will directly pass. Okay, so it will directly pass, and when it's more greater in the size, more than nanometers, it won't get into those cells. And sometimes it happens that because of lymphatic drainage system, it directly passes through kidneys and all and gets excreted. So major challenges in this mechanism was in vivo stability, that it would be stable or not. Then target specific delivery, that if the cancerous cells are present here, but still they won't be. If cancer, if it doesn't get into the cancer, then how can it be target specific? If I need, suppose the dose is 55%, but I am getting just 40% because if it gets into the lymphatic drainage system, or it gets excreted by other means, or it doesn't get into the space. So everything, it becomes a challenge. The absorption in the body, sometimes it doesn't get absorbed. Tonic effectiveness, the way I said, the dosage, it depends on dosage. And some of them also had, because if it doesn't goes into the space, instead it goes to other body cells, then it can be nephrotoxic, neurotoxic, and cardiotoxic. Solubility and bioavailability, how much it's utilized in the body. Next is, so for this, nanomaterials. Now people started using nanomaterials, so that if it's a particular size, 1 to 100 nanometers they started using. And these nanomaterials have been already used in biosensors, microfluidics, drug delivery, and other tissue engineering. So these are different kinds of nanodrugs till date used in cancer diagnostic, that is in therapy as well as diagnostics. Nanocapsule diamonds, nanoshells, lipid, gold nanoparticles, nanospheres, and all. Because of these nanomaterials, these were the problems that were solved. That is, it can easily penetrate in tissue system. It stays in blood circulatory system for longer because it is nano size. It's higher oral bioavailability, and it's sparingly water soluble. The most important thing right now in drug delivery, that it should be water soluble, but most of the drugs are hydrophobic in nature. Chemotherapeutic drugs are hydrophobic in nature. So if in case of nanomaterials, they biomarkers can be attached to them, like folic acid can be attached to them, that are for easy target of the drug. So next is magnetic hyperthermia. In nanomaterials, now people started using magnetic nanomaterials. because magnetic nanomaterials. Sorry. Yes, sir. Thank you. So magnetic hyperthermia, this has two uses. First, the most important use is the core that is used here, it's magnetic in nature. It can be used for T2 MRI imaging. If it gets accumulated in the cancerous area, so doctors can find that this is the cancerous area that needs to be treated. And the second thing is because it can be heated using alternating magnetic field. So this cancerous cells temperature can be risen and they can be sensitive to chemotherapy drugs, because of which at lower doses we will be able to treat those cancer cells. Next one. My compound is this iron oxide and PD, it's coated by PDA, that is polydopamine and curcumin zinc. Here iron oxide is magnetic in nature, polydopamine is a universal coating agent and it's high bioavailable, it's biocompatible, and curcumin and zinc are used as metal organic framework. Here zinc is used as the metal source and curcumin is used as a linker, and curcumin itself acts as an anti-cancer drug and in anti-inflammatory disease as well. So iron oxide can be used for T2 mode magnetic resonance imaging. Curcumin zinc is used as metal organic framework, and polydopamine, that is it's made from dopamine. It can be used as coating and as well as pH sensitive. Next, sir. This is my scheme of work. Iron oxide was first made, then it was coated using polydopamine. Curcumin zinc was synthesized on it, and it will be, I am doing this research is ongoing right now. I'll be loading with the drug. Doxorubicin might be the drug. Next, sir. Next. So this is my reaction. I have used a precursor this is FeCl3, potassium iodide, and I have synthesized the solution. I got a solution, and when I added ammonia directly, I got magnetic nanoparticles, the iron oxide from in range of 80 to 150, 80 to 400 nanometers. But the moment I added hexene and ethanol, I got I got a very good what we say dispersed iron oxide that is of 162 nanometers. And in second process, I coated it with polydopamine. I added iron oxide in dopamine hydrochloride in presence of tris buffer, and I coated it. Then I used zinc acetate as a metal source and curcumin as the linker, and I made iron oxide and polydopamine curcumin. This is my XRD. The iron oxide, as we can see, it's a very sharp crystalline nature, inward spinal structure. The second one is polydopamine coated. It didn't affect the crystallinity of the iron source, iron core, but we can see the noise. It is the amorphous nature of polydopamine, and the amorphicity increases as we have coated it with metal organic framework. Its amorphicity increases. The intensity of polydopamine coated and metal organic framework remains the same. Next. From XRD, we can say that inverse spinal structure of magnet, that iron oxide, magnetite. Here in FTIR, these two 3407 1625 in iron oxide is H2O because of H2O. This C bond N is of 57 is of polydopamine, and C bond O of polydopamine. This 584, 583, and it shifts to this side because of as it makes bonds with other organic compounds, that is polydopamine and curcumin. So these are my 10 images. Iron oxide and polydopamine coating was not uniform throughout because I have tried several times that sometimes it went to 100 nanometers and sometimes it was very less to 20 nanometers. It wasn't uniform. And in some articles, it has been already mentioned that uniformity is not there because of polydopamine, because its polymerization is not fixed, how it polymerizes. Next, sir. So these are my compound, and in this color of mauve in different pH solution, curcumin is soluble in alkaline solution, but here in mauve it is not soluble in alkaline solution. But as we increase the acidity, it is solubilized and it releases yellow color, that is, it becomes curcumin. In raw curcumin solubilizes in alkaline, but here as it is linked with zinc in mauve, it doesn't solubilizes. So I have, in conclusion, I have synthesized magnetic metal organic framework, and here the metal organic framework can be used as magnetic source, and it can be used for magnetic hyperthermia and chemotherapy as well. And drug can be loaded, so it can be dual mode, as the drug itself will be act as chemotherapy drug, and curcumin here also will act as anti-cancer drug. And iron oxide can be used for T2 imaging and heating the cancer cells locally, not from outside. We can heat it and we can make it sensitive. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Anything to ask? I have, you said 162 nanometer, right?
Yes,
but in your FP304, it is not. It's a 2 nanometer.
Sir, actually, that is DLS, and as my
Where
research,
is the DLS?
sir, I haven't shown that 162 is of the. I had written their DLS measurement.
Okay, but it has a huge difference.
Yes, sir. It has because the hydrodynamic size. It is showing the hydrodynamic size. It can be of cluster because as we synthesize magnetic nanoparticles, it isn't completely dispersible. It becomes it makes agglomerates instantly.
I can see your nanoparticles are below 50.
Yes, sir, it is. It is below 50.
And-
but because of DLS is that, because DLS, as soon as I have synthesized 2 days before and took the DLS, it agglomerates. I have seen the agglomerates as much I am trying. As soon as I'll coat it with some, while making it, while synthesizing, then only it remains stable. Otherwise, if it's in, because I'm completely using water here, so it agglomerates instantly.
Okay, there are many things to ask, but okay, thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
The next speaker is Prateek Kumar Malik. Yeah.
Good evening, one and all present here. I am an undergrad student from the biochemistry department, and I will be doing a review on allele derivatives which are used for the treatment of cancer and other ailment therapeutics. Now, moving on to what is cancer. Cancer, we have discussed by my predecessors, so I will not discuss much, but I'll just brief that the chemotherapeutic drugs which are used are having side effects, and there is also resistance to these drugs. So this is the need why we are searching for some alternative drugs which will have less cytotoxic, which will have less toxicity to other healthy cells and will have a higher efficacy to treat the cancerous cells. There are various drugs which have already been approved by FDA. Camptothecin, Taxol, and arsenic trioxide, which are already being used for treating cancer. Now, these are the table of contents we would be discussing. First, what are allyl groups? Allyl groups are formed when a vinyl
Introduction, we all know.
Yes.
What you want means what is the conclusion? Kind of what you want to deliver. That is the best way.
So I want to deliver is there are various natural substances like garlic, cinnamon, and nutmeg. There are various natural substances like garlic, cinnamon, mustard, from which various compounds can be derived, which have shown in vitro and in vivo potent anti-cancer activity. Some of these compounds have been derived, that is natural allyl sources, some of which are lipophilic organosulfur compounds, and some of which are water soluble compounds. There are also natural alkynyl benzenes derived from natural sources which have also showed anti-cancer activity. And in addition to that, they have also been used in various other therapeutic uses as well. Then there are synthetic allele containing compounds which have been synthesized, and most importantly, there is 17 AAG, which has reached phase 3 clinical trials. These are the major pathways which the allele containing compounds use for treating cancer. That is decreased expression of BCL2 proteins and increased expression of pro-apoptotic proteins. Then there is activation of P53, increased expression of inhibitors like P21, CDK inhibitor P21, which will help to arrest the cell cycle at the uh, at a G1 phase of the cell cycle. Then there is inhibition of MAP kinase and MEK-X signaling pathway by berefting the pathways of their essential growth factors. And there is caspase independent apoptosis, which is related to the apoptosis inducing factor. And there is inhibition of the PI3K, phosphatidylinositol kinase pathway, and the AKT pathway, and mitochondrial mediated apoptosis, endoplasmic reticulum endoplasmic reticulum stress, PARP cleavage, bioreductive alkylation of DNA, and decreased expression of VGF, leading to anti-angiogenic effect on the cancer cells. It will deprive the cancer cells of their blood supply so that they will not be able to proliferate further. Now, nanotechnologies are also used for the delivery of these drugs. So, nanoparticles, as we know that chemotherapeutic drugs, conventional chemotherapeutic drugs uh, are not able to identify between the healthy cells and the cancer cells. So, we are using nanoparticles for the So we are using the nanoparticles for identifying the cancer cells and reducing the toxicity. Some of the examples which I would like to mention, that DADS, that is diallyl disulfide, has been encoded with liposomes with RAGE antibody, which can specifically attack the cancer cells. Similarly, 17 AAG with DOTA PLG nanoparticles decorated with hyaluronic acid can also help to detect the cancer cells, and it will improve the drug efficacy and reduce the uh, cytotoxic effect of these drugs on the healthy cells. Now, the allyl motif containing compounds also have other therapeutic uses like allicin, which has shown potent in vivo antiviral activity, myristicin, which has also showed antioxidant, anti-inflammatory, antimicrobial, and insecticidal and larvicidal activity. Anethol has also been used for as an insect repellent against mosquitoes and cockroaches. Eugenol has also been used for antibacterial, antiviral, antifungal purposes, and eugenol has also been used in dental and oral care. Now, the challenges and the shortcomings which we are facing in the development of the allele motif compounds. There are concerns with the allele motif compounds in its high reactivity, as its epoxides and double bond help in help it to undergo various chemical reactions, and which can chemically alter the DNA, purine bases, and other amino acids of the healthy cells. There are clinical drug mechanisms like cyclophosphamide, chlorambucil, etc., which are unable to differentiate between the healthy cells and the cancer cells. There is formation of carcinogenic metabolite intermediates like acrolein and epoxides, which have carcinogenic and mutagenic potential. Apazicin in cancer treatment. Apazicin has demonstrated cytotoxic activity, and it also has low toxicity to the bone marrow cells. But still, it has reached only phase 2 clinical trials and not the phase 3 clinical trials because it has a short half life. Then drug resistance, which is the most significant problem in the development of new drugs, and this drug resistance arises because of the various pathways like gene mutation, amplification, cancer stem cells, efflux transporters, apoptosis dysregulation, and autophagy. Now, the future directions for allele motif compounds. 17 AAG and SMER28 have shown potent in vitro and in vivo antitumoral activity, with 17 AAG reaching the phase 3 clinical trials. Then anthracinin has faced some resistance issues, so it has undergone it is under the modification process so that it can yield more efficient anti-cancer drugs. There is targeted molecule therapy for progress of which is going on, and computational tools like ligand-based drug design and scaffold hopping will also help in identification of more potent anti-cancer drugs and various target, and it will also help in identifying various targets for these drugs to act, like genes and various proteins. And the conclusion for this presentation would be that it requires the bridging the gaps between the the higher studies in the study of academic research will help to address the issue of drug resistance, and it will be useful in yielding various more efficient drugs with less cytotoxic effect to the healthy cells. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Is there anything to ask? No. Thank you. The next talk is from Hussain Chand. Yeah, please.
Hello. Yeah, so very good evening, one and all present here. So my name is Hussain Chand, and I am from Indian Institute of Technology. So today I will be giving the presentation on one of my PhD work. So the work which I am presenting here is fissile low temperature synthesis of novel carbon nitrides for efficient carbon dioxide conversion into value-added chemicals. So let me give a brief introduction about my work. So as I have told in my introduction that I am working on a CO2 conversion. So uh, why it is required to convert the CO2, as we know that CO2 is a greenhouse gas. So we require its conversion to valuable products so that we can mitigate the problem of its CO2 atmosphere concentration. So the methodology which I have adopted is CO2 conversion to cyclic carbonate. So why two cyclic carbonates? If we see this reaction, we have a carbon dioxide, and on the other hand, we have epoxide. So if we see these two reactants, these are non-toxic, and further I have conducted this reaction in solvent-free conditions. So this makes this reaction green approach. Further, this reaction has a 100% economic conversion, and further we see these cyclic products have a different applications, like they can be used as a protic solvents, they are used as a precursor for polymeric products, fuel additives, chemical ingredients for preparing agriculture chemicals, and etc. Further, in my introduction, I have written that we have a use of carbon nitride. So why particularly carbon nitride? So if we see these two reactants, we have a CO2, which is basic, which is a Lewis acidic in nature, which requires some basic moieties in our catalyst. So as we know, this carbon nitride has a lot of nitrogen, which can activate this CO2. So yeah, in the next slide, I will be giving a brief introduction about the graphite carbon nitride. So what are graphite carbonides? So these are a structural analogy with the graphene. So these are the some synthesis routes which have been used for the synthesis of graphite carbonide. So these are different precursors, so which are used for synthesis of this graphite carbonide. So when these precursors are heated more than 500 degrees Celsius, this leads to the formation of this graphite carbonides. So these are the structure of these graphite carbonides. These have a trizine structural units, and on the other hand, they could have heptagene structural units. So these are the some properties of these graphite carbonides. These are a metal-free catalysts. They are a biocompatible in nature. They are low cost they are produced from low cost precursors. They are non-toxic, made from earth abundant elements. They have a high thermal and chemical stability, and they are semiconductor material. So, what is the motivation behind this work? So, if we see the graph, if you see in the as I have shown in previous slide, so the graphite carbon nitride which have been synthesized so far, they have been synthesized using high temperature thermal calcination of different precursors. So, this makes this process energy intensive. And further, the carbon nitride which we are getting after the thermal calcination of those products, they are end up with a very low quantity. So, to avoid these conditions, we have synthesized these two carbon nitrides, which are synthesized from two precursors. So first precursor which we have used is 4-amino tetrazole, and second precursor which we have used is 3,5-diamino tetrazole. So when we have used this precursor in the presence of some suitable catalyst, so these are then refluxed under in nitrogen atmosphere at 100 degrees Celsius. So after the refluxing, we get this yellow color product, which is itself a color of carbon nitrides. So this is the synthesis of these two carbon nitrides. So then we have checked the synthesis of these carbon nitride using very spectroscopic and microscopic techniques. So first we have used the XRD. So from the XRD itself, it shows the presence of 002 peak, which is a characteristic peak of graphitic carbonite, which shows these are graphitic carbonite structures. Then we have checked the different functionality using the FTI spectroscopy. So from the FTI spectroscopy, we found that these have a mainly carbon nitrogen single bond, carbon nitrogen double bond, nitrogen nitrogen single bond, and nitrogen double bond functionalities. So further, this Raman spectroscopy also complements the FTI results. Then we have checked the thermal stability using a TGA technique. So where here we have found these two carbon nitrides have thermal stability up to 300 degrees Celsius. Then we have used this solid state NMR spectroscopy to check the structure of these synthesized carbon nitrides. So from these proton NMR and 13C NMR, we have tentatively proposed this type of structure, which is derived from 4-amino tetrazole. And from the same proton NMR and 13C NMR, we have found that this is the structure of other carbon nitride, which is synthesized from 3,5-diamino triazole. So here I want to mention one thing, that the polymerization in particularly this case is occurring from this nitrogen, whereas the polymerization in this carbon nitrogen is taking from the amino group, which is unpolymerized in first step. So then this morphology has been analyzed using the SAM and 10 microscopies. So here we have found this 4NZCN as a sheet-like morphology, whereas this 3NZCN as a tube-like morphology. These morphologies are also complemented by the TAM microscopy images. Then we have checked the composition analysis and bonding features of different elements in these two carbon nitrides. So here we can see that in both of these carbon nitrides, the majority of elements are carbon and nitrogen. Further, along with this carbon and nitrogen, small amount of chlorine is also observed, which is coming from the residual chlorine, which is remain unsubstituted in cyanuric chloride, which is used one of precursor in synthesis of these carbon nitrides. And small amount of potassium is also observed, which is coming from the potassium carbonate, which is used as a base in this reaction. So then we have used these are the high resolution XPS spectra of carbon and nitrogen. From the carbon 1s spectra, we find that the carbon is deconvoluted in 3 peaks, and the 3 peaks are attributed to carbon. These are advantage carbon, then carbon nitrogen double bond, and this carbon nitrogen carbon bond, which is present in heterocyclic ring of carbon nitride structures. Then these are the nitrogen spectra. So in nitrogen spectra, the nitrogen is deconvoluted into 4 peaks. So the first peak is assigned to this carbon nitrogen carbon bond, which is present in heterocyclic rings, and this is peak around 400 is assigned to nitrogen bond, and peak around 4.1.3 electron volt is assigned to C carbon nitrogen bond, which is in which nitrogen is bonded to hydrogen, and this peak around 402.1 electron volt is assigned to nitrogen is bonded to 3 different carbons. So in contrast to carbon 1s spectra in this 3NZCN, this peak is missing. So this shows that the further polymerization in this 3NZCN is taking place from the unpolymerized amino group, which is remained after the reaction. So then the physiological properties has been assessed by using the BET studies. So in BET studies, we have found that this both the carbon nitrides have high surface area comparison to conventional graphite carbon nitride, which has a surface area around 10 meters square per gram. So then we have used this catalyst first, this 4-NZCN for the conversion of the CO2 to cyclic carbonates. So these are the different optimization studies. So from the different optimization, we have found that 30 mg of catalyst, 100-degree temperature, 24-hour are the best suitable condition for this reaction. Then we have done the different control reaction to find out the active role of catalyst. So when we have used the different uh, control reaction, so here we have found that there is a significant enhancement in activity of this catalyst when we have compared with the conventional graphite carbon nitride and in the without using any co-catalyst, without using any catalyst and co-catalyst. So these are the different substrate which I have tried with this particular carbon nitride. So here we have found that the catalyst has shown good to excellent activity for the conversion of different substrates. Then and the second carbon nitride which we have developed in case this was also used for this particular reaction. So these are the different optimizations studies. So here we have found that 50 mg of catalyst, 100-degree temperature and 24-hour the best temperature which have been found the optimum conditions for this particular reaction. And then we have found out the active role of catalyst by using the different control studies. So we have found that this 3-NZCN has shown very good catalytic activity in this particular reaction. So then we have again optimized the different, we have again used this catalyst for different other reactants. So in all the reactants, I have found that the catalyst has shown good to accelerate activity in the for the all the reactants. So yeah, this is the mechanism. So I will taking only one I will be explaining by taking only one carbon nitride. So here is the tentative structure of this carbon nitride. So initially there is a adsorption of this reactant on catalyst surface. So this CO2 is attacked by nitrogen of this tetrazole ring. At the same time, this epoxide is activated by hydrogen bonding. So at the same time, we have used potassium iodide, which help in the ring opening of this epoxide. So after the ring opening of epoxide, the oxide of this CO2 is making a nucleophilic attack on this iodine bonded carbon atom, forming this 5-membered cyclic intermediate, which is then dissolving from the catalyst surface and regenerating the catalyst, which is again used in the next cycle. So these are the recyclability studies. So catalysts have shown very good recyclabilities, and further we have checked the functionalization. So we have observed the functionalization have been retained after the recyclability. So to summarize this work, so I can say that these two 4-NZCN and 3-NZCN were synthesized using fissile, energy efficient and uh, economical approach. The various characterization reveal that presence of trigen unit as a structural unit in these carbon nitrides, and high nitrogen content and high surface area in these carbon nitrides are responsible for its high activity. And the catalysts have shown very good excellent activity for the several reactants, so showing the more generality of these catalysts. So this work is under review in Applied Catalysis B Environmental Journal. So yeah, with this I will conclude my presentation. Yeah, thank you very much for your
Thank you. Very good. Anything to ask? You presented very well. Your work quality is also good, but we are sorry for poor presence.
Yes, it's okay, so no issue.
Really good.
Yeah,
Really
thank you very
good.
much.
The morphology, how did you make?
Yes, sir.
The morphology, the nanorods.
Actually, we have a.
No, I just want to ask. It is totally porous. I mean, it's like.
Yeah, they are porous. From BET itself, it is showing they are porous. Yeah, definitely they are porous. And
No, the nanorods, it's fully open.
yeah, they are means hollow. Hollow. Yeah, they are not like rods. They are tubes. They are hollow in between the.
Okay, we can discuss. Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next one is Prakash Chaudhary. Yeah, please.
Good evening to one and all present here. I, Harsh Prakash Chaudhary, an undergraduate student of the Deshbandhu College, standing for you all to present my topic, which is basically the removal of methods of removal of toxic air pollutants, that is dichlorofluoromethane. We all know that we are in the verge of the extinction, and it is because of the various reasons. But one of the major reason is the pollution, and it is only caused by the human itself. And pollution has caused a lot of problems to the human world, but one of the major problem that has caused is the ozone layer depletion. Ozone layer is basically an protective layer which is protecting us from the various UV radiations coming from the sun. And it is found in the stratosphere region of the earth, and the concentration of the ozone in this region is much more or higher than the other any other region of the atmosphere. So it is basically a protective layer. As you can see in this figure, it is protecting us from the various UV rays, and the CFC which is released from us is reacting with the ozone layer and causing the degradation of it. As the chlorine atom of the CFC is binding with the oxygen atom of the ozone and causing its depletion. So you can see there are various toxic pollutants like chlorofluorocarbons, halogens, methyl bromide, HFCs, and the various others. Only few of them are mentioned here. So because of these toxic pollutants, there is a depletion occurred in the ozone layer. And due to this depletion, there is a lot of consequences that happens. Not only humans, animals, plants, they're also affected. Some of them are mentioned here. Like the risk for the skin cancer has also increased. The phytoplankton population has also reduced, and the acidifications also happens in the oceans. Now, I have basically focused on the CFC, which has a very high degree of the polluting potentials. And there are various types of the CFC in our atmosphere. But I have majorly focused on the CFC-12. It is because it has a various uses, as it can be used as a aerosol, as a refrigerant, and the various other ways. So it is important that if you're using this substance, so if it present more concentration environment, so it is important that we first remove this instead of other substances. So as you can see from this graph, that the concentration of the CFC-12 is increasing over the years, and it has become alarming. So it is important that we should remove this pollutant from our atmosphere. So I have taken this theory, that is plasma catalysis, from one of the research paper which is performed in the latest years, which is basically used in the various methods. That is for the reforming of the methane, syngas productions, hydrogen production, and the various other ways. And recently it is also used for the removal of the chlorofluorocarbon, that is CFC-12. And for this removal, they have used a catalyst to increase this efficiency. And the catalyst is titanium dioxide, which is utilized. And to further to enhance its activity, and transition metals is also used, that is manganese. And my proposal is that instead of using manganese, we can use the various other metals like iron, nickel, and the cobalt because of its own advantages. First of all, what we are doing here, that we are removing the CFC-12. So this efficiency is good. But if we can reduce the cost of this removal, it will become a big positive for us because the metal which is utilizing and become cost effective and a good big positive for all of us. So basically, I would like to tell something about plasma catalysis. So plasma catalysis is basically a method in which plasma utilized for the activation of the reactants. And here is the schematic diagram for this process, that is plasma catalysis, which is basically of two types. One, that is the in plasma catalysis, which is shown in the picture B, in which both plasma and catalyst is present in the discharge region. And in the second, which is the post plasma catalysis, in this region, both the plasma and the catalyst are present separately. So there are two ways, and in this method, and in this plasma catalysis, which is utilized in this paper, this second method is utilized, that is the in plasma catalysis. So by concluding my talk, I will say that instead of using manganese, we can use various other transition metals also. So, and these are all my resources that I have utilized. And Dr. Mita Kashyap has helped me during my paper. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Chaudhary Saab, thank you. The next one is Kirti. Again, undergraduate student. Yeah, Kirti, please.
It's good you're getting an exposure to speak in the public. It's good at this level and you're presenting all right.
Good evening, sir. Myself, Kriti, and I am from BSc Life Sciences, third year, and I'll be presenting on the spatiotemporal analysis for some selected VOC species in Telangana, India, along with the health risk assessment too. And so, as we know that air pollution is the major concern, and not as usual, we assume that air pollution is caused by traffic and all. It is it is outdoor air pollution and indoor air pollution, and indoor air pollution is also a significant contributor to the deaths caused by the pollution. So, one of the major emitter is as we all know vehicles and industries. They release pm 2.5, pm 10, and some harmful gaseous pollutants. One of the most important is VOCs, the volatile organic compounds. They cause cancers, various cancers, and some non-lung cancers like of kidney, brain, and bladder are caused by the indoor pollution. As we all know, we are familiar with the COVID-19, which caused the shutdown, lockdown in the entire world. And it gave us the opportunity to understand about the various contaminants. During the lockdown period, we observed that there was a significant improvement in the air quality in various countries. So, we observed that the particulate matter and gaseous pollutants were decreased during this period, but there was an increase in the ozone pollution. VOCs are not only released from the anthropogenic sources, but they are also released from some of the plant species. These are called biogenic VOCs. But in metropolitan areas, this is not a major concern because here one of the major problem is the traffic, the automobile emissions. So, also the indoor air pollution is caused due to improper ventilation, which is now very common in the cities. Next, VOCs we have BTEX compounds, which are the most notorious one: the benzene, toluene, ethyl benzene, and xylene. These species are cause the most harm to the human health and and contribute 60% to the non-methane VOCs. These are an indicator of the organic pollution. So here in this paper, we analyze the temporal variation in the TVOC's concentration, and we estimate the health risk in males, female, and children. We have studied in Telangana, and all the monitoring stations of Telangana are in Hyderabad. So we have taken those monitoring stations, and the data has been procured from the CPCB website. And we have divided our data into two sets. First, we have taken from the year 2019 to 2021, like entire year from 1st January to 31st December. And the second set, we have taken the proper, like the lockdown started in March 25th, 2019 to May 31st, 2019. So we took the same period in 2019, 2020, and 2021. Here we use the human health risk assessment method to analyze the risk posed by these contaminants to the human health. The guidelines which are laid out by the United States Environment Protection Agency have been taken into account and used for our assessment. These are further divided into these sections like hazard identification, dose response, and exposure evaluation. We have taken hazard identification from the data in the literature, and those response is not included in this study. So, exposure evaluation is the quantity or the magnitude of the contaminants in the human body which are being consumed or inhaled by the human body. In this paper, we are taking inhalation as the major contributor. We have calculated the hazard quotient and the lifetime cancer risk values using these equations, uh, and the results were divided into three sections and two sets, which are the year 2019 to 2021, and the following data is the mean concentration, the the trend which we have observed and the maximum concentrations. So as we can see in this graph, that in the year 2020, it was significantly decreased, but as the lockdown was over, the concentrations were again seen to rise at the end of year 2021. Similarly, we have given box plot for all the monitoring stations which we had considered during our study, and the same data, the same conclusion has been made. Similarly, the results of our pre, during, and the post lockdown period were found to be similar. Then we have elaborated for all the three periods, like the pre, during, and post pandemic, and it was found that though traffic pollution was reduced during the pandemic period, but still there were other sources like paints, waxes, polishes, which were still contributing to the VOC emissions and causing harm to the human health. And these are caused due to improper ventilation and by indoor air pollution. The health risk assessment was based on the LCR values, which is the lifetime cancer risk values, and these were calculated as follows. And it was similar for males, females, and children. The area which we reviewed, the IDA, BIA, and all these results were similar. Previously was for males and then for females, and it was found to be same and similar for the children. So, in conclusion, we found from our LCR values that these values were quite high, and we need to take action on these, which was above the prescribed value by the US EPA. And this study should help the policymakers to design some area specific policies and strategies to overcome these issues and VOC problem.
Thank you, Kirti.
Thank you so much.
Soon we are going to have this high air polluted. How to stop them?
Yes, sir.
How to stop them? What did you learn from this study?
Okay. So these, we cannot use any broad. We cannot use any nationwide policy to stop these things. We have to go at a regional level and be more specific, because we have studied on different states, Punjab, Telangana, etc., and the results are different for different states.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Good thing was you have not seen the slides, but you should not have so much of content on the slides.
Yes, sir.
People look embarrassed. Show things in graphical form rather than writing text. Piece of advice for your future.
Thank you, sir.
Atul Sharma. Akhilesh Kumar Yadav. You are next. Atul Sharma is not available. Okay. No, it's not true, right? बच्चे इतना अच्छा prepare करके आ रहे हैं, but सुनने के लिए कोई नहीं है. It's just like including the last one. Yes, Some people were saying that after Dekha was saying to me that there was a conference in ISC and only the